North Korea may be preparing to send as many as 30,000 additional military personnel to Russia. If confirmed, it would become the largest overseas deployment in the history of the Korean People's Army. At first glance, this looks like another manpower boost for Moscow's war in Ukraine, but the real story is much bigger. Every month, North Korean troops spend on the battlefield gives Pyongyang something it has lacked for decades: real combat experience in a modern high-intensity war. That experience cannot be bought, copied, or simulated through military exercises. It must be earned under fire. If these reports prove accurate, Russia is not just gaining soldiers. North Korea could be building one of the most battle-tested militaries in Asia, and that could reshape the military balance on the Korean peninsula long after the war in Ukraine eventually ends. Since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Moscow has gradually expanded defense cooperation with North Korea. What began with reports of artillery ammunition shipments has evolved into a much broader military partnership. Western intelligence and South Korean officials estimate that North Korea has supplied millions of artillery shells, ballistic missiles, and other military equipment to Russia. Some estimates suggest North Korean ammunition now accounts for a significant share of Russia's artillery fire in certain sectors of the front. Military cooperation has also expanded beyond weapons. Reports indicate North Korean engineers have assisted with mine-clearing operations, while industrial workers have reportedly supported Russian drone production. Now, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky claims Russia is preparing to receive up to 30,000 additional North Korean personnel. Neither Moscow nor Pyongyang has confirmed those numbers, and independent verification remains limited. However, if the deployment takes place, it would represent a dramatic expansion of North Korea's direct participation in the conflict. The strategic importance of such a move extends far beyond Ukraine. Three major developments explain why. The first development is combat experience. Modern warfare has changed dramatically over the past decade. Drones now identify targets within seconds. Electronic warfare disrupts communications and navigation systems. Precision-guided artillery destroys positions far behind the front lines. Artificial intelligence increasingly assists battlefield decision-making. Few militaries have experienced all of these technologies operating simultaneously in large-scale combat. Ukraine has become exactly that environment. For North Korea, participating in this conflict offers a unique opportunity to observe and adapt to modern warfare under real operational conditions. Soldiers learn how drones change battlefield tactics, engineers gain experience countering precision weapons, commanders study how artillery, electronic warfare, and intelligence systems interact during sustained combat. Military exercises simply cannot replicate that level of complexity. History consistently shows that combat experience improves military effectiveness. Armies often emerge from major conflicts with stronger doctrine, better training methods, and more realistic operational planning. If tens of thousands of additional North Korean personnel rotate through Russia over time, Pyongyang could gradually build a much larger pool of experienced officers and non-commissioned officers than it possesses today. That alone would strengthen North Korea's conventional military capabilities. But personnel are only part of the equation. The second development concerns military technology. North Korea and Russia increasingly appear to be exchanging different forms of military value. Pyongyang supplies artillery ammunition, missiles, equipment, and potentially manpower. Russia, in return, may provide technologies that North Korea has struggled to develop independently. Although many reported transfers remain unconfirmed, analysts have frequently pointed to advanced aircraft technology, missile guidance systems, satellite capabilities, submarine development, and air defense technologies as possible areas of cooperation. For North Korea, these technologies matter enormously. Despite possessing one of the world's largest militaries, North Korea still faces weaknesses in several critical areas, particularly modern combat aviation. Much of its fighter fleet consists of aging Soviet-era aircraft that lag behind South Korean and American capabilities. If military cooperation eventually accelerates technological modernization, North Korea's armed forces could become significantly more capable across multiple domains, not just artillery. Russia also benefits. North Korea possesses one of the world's largest stockpiles of conventional artillery ammunition. Maintaining a high-intensity war consumes enormous quantities of shells every day. Access to North Korean production helps Russia sustain prolonged operations while expanding its own manufacturing capacity. In short, both countries appear to receive strategic benefits that neither could obtain as quickly alone. That growing partnership creates wider geopolitical consequences. The third development is the emergence of a deeper military alliance challenging Western security calculations. For years, Russia and North Korea maintained cordial but relatively limited defense cooperation. Today, that relationship increasingly resembles a strategic partnership. North Korean military personnel gain operational experience. Russia gains additional manpower, ammunition, and industrial support. Political ties deepen through repeated high-level exchanges. This cooperation forces neighboring countries to reconsider their security planning. South Korea already faces one of the world's largest standing armies across the demilitarized zone. A more experienced North Korean military would complicate defense planning, even if significant technological gaps remain between the two Koreas. Japan also watches developments closely because North Korea continues expanding both its missile and nuclear capabilities. The United States, meanwhile, must consider how growing Russia-North Korea cooperation affects alliance planning in both Europe and the Indo-Pacific. Importantly, this trend reflects a broader shift in international politics. Rather than operating in separate regional conflicts, states increasingly cooperate across regions. Events in Eastern Europe now directly influence military balances in Northeast Asia. That interconnectedness represents one of the defining characteristics of today's global security environment. For East Asia, confirmed deployment of tens of thousands of North Korean personnel would likely accelerate regional military modernization. South Korea and Japan could strengthen surveillance, missile defense, and joint operational planning with the United States while monitoring how North Korean doctrine evolves after the conflict. For Europe, continued North Korean support gives Russia additional strategic depth. Even if foreign personnel perform logistical, engineering, or rear area duties rather than frontline combat, they still free Russian forces for other missions and strengthen Moscow's ability to sustain a prolonged war. At the same time, caution remains necessary. Many reported details surrounding troop numbers, future weapons transfers, and specific technological exchanges have not been independently verified. The overall trajectory of closer Russia-North Korea cooperation appears clear, but the full scale of that cooperation remains difficult to confirm publicly. Wars often reshape far more than the battlefield where they are fought. If North Korea truly sends tens of thousands of additional troops to Russia, the most lasting consequence may not be what happens in Ukraine, but what those soldiers bring home when they return to the Korean Peninsula. If you enjoyed this analysis, subscribe to the International Desk, and I'll see you in the next one.